After my last stunt, it seems official whether this is real or Memorex. For now, many of us are only linked via the safety web matrix, at a far distance from each other as players on a grand 5D chessboard, perhaps even separated by time or other dimensional or quantum aspects. As such, I have been advised to have plenty of water and food on hand, and I am passing along the information to the rest of you. Welcome to Egg-Gnosis Part 17, Back on Track. I am Melissa of Capetronics Dimensional Art, and today's message redirects things back on track using a phase angle transitioning light cannon to deliver more than art, exponentially in 7D. We will start with some important business concerning solutions to reduce carbon dioxide levels, including cost and benefits. Later in this presentation, I will discuss another important issue to sustainability, which is to establish the WHOOHUB Council positions. This presentation features AI-generated art using scientist Brian Prater's formula for overunity. It also features some of Microsoft Office 360's 3D models, some of which are animated, like the satellite seen here. Also, as usual, other animated GIF files herein were downloaded from freebie web content sites. Let me start by letting everyone know that Caveman has been receiving medical care and is feeling better about life at this time. We were able to keep the website going, and we have received some financial help from a friend to help us get by for a little while longer. I hope today's message cheers you up as much as your prayers have uplifted us. As we say in the country, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we'll make it through this bumpy part somehow. Anywho, when it comes to picking a president, my suggestion is to choose one that is actually living on this planet. It seems to me that we are being ruled from afar, and no one has proved me wrong yet. It seems to me in this weird 5D chess game that all the world's religions are boiled down to this futuristic psyops art contest simulation. And for this Halloween adventure, I recommend the first Mongolian rock group in the metaverse, the Who Song Wolf Totem, to accompany the theme of this presentation. Let's overwrite the madness. As the messenger, the bird clan goes forth, followed by the protective hunters of the wolf clan. These are a couple of our totems, which are ancient symbols that transcend language and are evident in nature. These symbols are long-lasting in a world where evil seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. We find ourselves in this abstracted construct, which I and others have tested, and it seems that if they aren't coming to punish us, then they probably aren't coming to help us either. So the French understand and acknowledge that it is the right of the people to defend themselves against tyranny, especially when their lives and future generations are in danger. However, that does not mean we must war, and I hope that cooler heads can prevail, and I will provide some prioritized steps as we go along. We realize from our position in the open source community that we're damned if we do, but damned even worse if we don't. Sincerely, we are here to help humanity survive, which is why we have spent our lives devising methods and technology to do precisely that, such as our concept for WhoHub humanitarian software. If you have not already done so, I highly recommend you watch these videos available on YouTube, which are focused on how WhoHub functions as a social technological conversion method and platform for business economics and information distribution. And they explain many of the types of technologies that can be offered if funding becomes available for manufacturing. As mentioned, later in this presentation, I will discuss the Hub Council and our present needs and priorities. Hold the popcorn. Here's acorn. The fact is, carbon dioxide is a problem, and the oxygen saturation levels exceed the maximum capacity, which is causing other problems to emerge. In response to Senator John Kennedy, Capetronics R&D Energy proposes manufacturing for carbon scrubbers, of which units can be scaled for commercial or residential purposes. As part of this proposal and its total cost, ecologically friendly technology can also be manufactured and given to people for free. Materials for portable power stations are cheap and readily available, such as plastic and copper wire. These hybrid wind generators would not require neodymium magnets from China. Rather, the technology works on magnetic harmonized coupling. The units come with EMP self-protection and require 200 watts input to operate to deliver 20,000 watts output, which is approximately 2 homes worth of daily electricity. The free hybrid wind generators drive the signal to operate small toroidal power units and act as atmospheric filters. Inside a building, a home unit could filter 256 cubic feet per hour. And the total cost of this sustainability project would be around $850 billion, which is roughly $5 billion per state. Shifting gears for this Halloween special edition. Welcome to the Haunted Temple OU, which is short for Over Unity. This is where things get rather spooky, and you have to really evaluate the patterns as we go along, and how they are related is what matters, because the details seem to be abstracted like a randomized means to distribute the content like a ciphering tool, which is what I believe the bots are doing in their communications. So, to override their narrative, I want to deliver this heart to heart message from afar. Once upon a time, mankind divorced from God's will, his divine plan and planning, as well as his wisdom. After a time, humanity sold out for what was not exalted, not feared, and unworthy. Souls became trampled like grapes still on the vines. Beauty was degraded by definition in their supplanted narratives, which come in the form of art of all colors and forms, such as religions, the news biases, the news narratives, social media clicks, and manipulated preferences everywhere. Like smoke and mirrors, these types of distractions construct the sounds our souls hear, which make up our womb-like world where we are blind to the connections in an inside-out spectral separation. In such a world, love may be a difficult concept, but at the heart of the Sephiroth is beauty, which shows us the way. Humans are wired to love and enjoy beauty and pursue happiness in that language, in whatever identifying form that may become. Staring deeply into the looking glass, the show Futurama sounds like missing pieces to Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's account of the scheme. In the cartoon show Futurama, the most capable character is a female who is a part of a permanent underclass that lives in the sewers. And from what I understand from secondhand information, not having watched much of the show myself, the main female character's work is taken and used by the rich class while she remains without recognition or compensation. Is Futurama evidence of the grift? I have observed some limitations due to time itself, which are noticeable through the methods of abstraction as I have described in many previous videos of the Egg-Gnosis series, namely Part 2, From the Darkness to the Light. This world spits out excuses in opposition to nearly everything. It seems everyone is on the attack, hacking through the world like cutting through thick jungle vegetation. That's how I see this situation of competing narratives also. The winning narrative will be the one that is threaded through the hearts of the people to unify them. It is the crux of the pursuit of happiness, because life is not worth living as a slave. This is part of the transmutation process, like turning lemons into lemonade. Rather than allow the narratives to construct a future of doom, warrior souls do what makes them happy in whatever hellscape they find themselves in. Now, it's about to get really dark. Belief in two opposing narratives can cause cognitive dissonance, which causes some nuts to crack. I observed this problem for the first time at age 5 when I watched communion on Easter morning at First Assembly of God Church. I listened as the preacher guided all the people dressed in their best clothes, looking prim and proper, upstanding pillars of the community. The preacher talked about eating the flesh and drinking the blood of the Savior. This was the first time I had heard about this, and immediately I realized and acknowledged that I was in the presence of a room full of about 5,000 Satanists. Honestly, I was shocked, and I realized that I was in the middle of something I didn't want to be in. My dad must have noticed something was wrong with me because he bent down and said that I wouldn't have to participate that day. He said I wouldn't have to do that until I was older. But the next Easter, when I was 6 years old, I was surprised to learn that Dad thought I was old enough for communion. I didn't want to touch it. I was still very upset from the year before, and the idea of cannibalism, even symbolically, was repulsive and horrifying. Dad forced me to take a wafer and a tiny clear plastic communion cup that held a sip of grape juice. I knew in reality it was actually grape juice, but I was not sure what kind of styrofoam the extra thin see-through wafer was made of. At any rate, the preacher began the ritual reading about eating flesh, and while everyone partook as expected, I was raging with shock and rebellion. I refused to eat it, even symbolically, and it started to get my dad upset. At first, he was firmly prompting me to eat it, But the preacher continued on, guiding the people with his words into drinking blood in the form of grape juice as a symbolic gesture of drinking their Savior's human blood. My dad drank his juice and then he got really angry with me because I was absolutely not having any part of the ritual, no matter how angelic the church people thought of themselves. My dad got louder and louder with his tirade against my rebellion, and then I remember his distinct words. He said from exasperation with me after trying everything else, he finally thought about things from my perspective and coldly chided me in a sing-song fashion saying, "Missy, it's not real blood. Drink it. It's not real blood. Drink it." My mind became unglued, hearing him admit what he would probably never would have otherwise, and I realized he would not relent until I finally committed the same act of sin, which is how I viewed it at age 6. Religion is a form of art. It utilizes creative expression through rituals and language. Religion and culture are intrinsically combined and seem to grow out from each other through the morphing phases throughout history as people spread and intermarry. At the crux of holy wars is human sacrifice in some form or another, whether it be symbolic or death in battle. For warrior souls, freedom and happiness are one and the same. In war, rules are broken, and turnabout is fair play. So let this slide stand as a place mark for a recent event that shall for now remain unsaid, and let peace reign here in Salem and elsewhere. It is not my mission to destroy anyone's religion or argument about art. Rather, my statements provide a new narrative for those that choose to listen and learn from it. I think it is also worth explaining the difference between Catholic Christianity and Gnosticism, which came before it. Catholics and the Protestant beliefs that stem from it believe at the core in the need for human sacrifice for their atonement of sins. Sin comes from the ancient Babylonian era, meaning sickness. Over time, sin became affiliated with guilt, a psychological construct rather than a physiological ailment. So nowadays, many Christians focus on sin and redemption due to personal guilt and shame, whereas earlier believers in Christ, the Gnostics, view the world through the understanding of illusion versus enlightenment. Bo of the fifth column said that this thing's been played out time and time again, and it seems that nobody wins, and wars like this could go on for 100 years. So I wonder, what could motivate someone to continue this secular stalemate for 100 years? However, to change the narrative along with everything else, considering the current rate of inflation, I don't have that long to wait, but neither does anyone else. According to the fire maps on the internet today, over half the world's land masses are ablaze, like they've been for a while. And while many of you have been deeply embroiled in debates on possible meanings of my polymath octopus, the real world conditions are in free fall, headed to hell in less than 3 decades. And this is a real world event, not a psyops, not a game, and not some art show, although it could be in the right hands in the future. Due to the chaotic nature of our collective situation, and to pass along information that may be prudent at this time, especially for those of you who talk about the military stepping in to help. From what I recall, and according to some old research, in order to restore our union, we need to have a certain number of jury members for each state. This is the foundation of our legal system, the jury, made up of we the people. Once certain positions are filled, including positions like senators, we can request that the military help in our endeavors to secure the federal government as well. However, to the best of my knowledge, the military cannot and will not step in unless the people have shown that they are able to govern themselves and request that the military step in to help once that is evident. For those that are willing, this is how we take our country back legally in this time of crisis and war on humanity here and worldwide. From the news media, it appears as if we do have a Congress, but I am uncertain if the same Congress controls all places at once from a centralized position, or if it seems we are on our own to defend ourselves on planet Earth number one, also known as God's creation. But what do I know? I can't afford enough gas to fart. Also, as a matter of priority everywhere, we may need a Who-Hub Council for each planet in case we are truly separated in space-time. I prefer to be all business, but these days business is rare. YouTube won't let me gain subscribers or record the actual views of these videos, of which seems to have reached a far point, or perhaps we're suspended in time on the same planet. A friend wrote that all movie theaters have exit doors. Yet at age 50, I am asking, where is my jubilee? Hear me out. If you have been following along in real time with my videos and the news stories, you can see how the enemy has threaded itself through network trunk lines that use religion, politics, and other emotionally charged content to manipulate narratives to control people, their reactions, and behavioral responses. So, in this 5D cognitive chess game, I properly identified my choice of Chief of Staff Bo of the Fifth Column. I interpreted his communications through a higher conscious understanding to mean that my videos are being intentionally suppressed as part of a vetting procedure, which I would expect to be in place. Because I expect that my Chief of Staff understands me, the situation, and the position of we the people. And knowing those details are crucial to job performance and the integrity of the country in this planet. With that said, there is no way on God's green earth I would read over 1,200 pages of the Law of War Manual. And as I understand things, at this time, the Bible is much more applicable as part of the culmination of the fight to control the column of art in our collective human structure. The oddity of things at this time should cause us all to pause and reflect what that means. Did God stop the destruction of earth to allow us this moment to change the course of history and save humanity and this planet from destruction? I believe that what we do now matters a lot. Thank you for allowing me to express my First Amendment right to free speech. Creating this presentation was therapeutic for me because I was programmed at an early age in church to despise Halloween, and I spent too many years being afraid at this time of year. To make fun of such silly things has sparked the beauty and love within my soul for continuing to work for humanity despite the conditions. Yet, also due to the obvious conditions, I find myself realizing my role at this time, and I hope to be able to continue bringing you sound wisdom and beautiful human ideas to inspire your minds and souls. We need each other, and that is really a key aspect that people may be able to see more clearly nowadays. I also want to respond to one of my favorite comedians of all time, Lewis Black. I agree that women should be allowed to have their headaches alleviated, even if it has to be presented as part of the U.S. Constitution that ensures us the pursuit of happiness. Also, I thought the idea of baseball as a way for Congress to finally decide on a new Speaker of the House or for any other matter they are presented with is a really good idea indeed. In summary, as we forge a path not taken before, let us take with us what is worthy. Let our hearts be our guide to happiness and freedom as we create a collective narrative that awards us with a tangible and beautiful future. Let us network this message and call out the enemy's spelling errors and obstacles in our way to ascension. This presentation is another burnt offering, and it is now to be considered charred art. Microsoft may believe they own everything produced through their software, but Gates and his boring bots can never stand in my way to freedom of happiness. As we continue through the fiery narratives, I offer a bit of hope that I see more than one possible positive outcome. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed this Halloween special edition as much as I enjoyed creating it for you, even if it did require decades of research and nearly a half century of suppression to deliver it to you just in time. My husband feels the same way, and we are quite enthralled by all the winning. When it comes to war, it puts a little pep in the step. A bit of a feisty spirit is rather uplifting. Like Beau of the fifth column said of the French, that's just our jam. And I would add that the Mongols echo that sentiment. It is said that the Mongols, led by Genghis Khan, killed millions of people at one go, erased multiple kingdoms from the face of history, and after massacring entire cities, they would leave enormous piles of severed heads as a warning to others. Have a happy Halloween! Until next time, keep your heads on straight and forge forward, heart first. Bye for now.